the label maker had a very simple and very effective kind of story that worked for like a Seinfeld episode, which is just the whole idea of regifting and also the mystery of, did this person regift this or not that I gave them. And interesting, of course, as well, as it does tie, the ending, of course, did tie into, an idea that was pitched a few episodes earlier out of desperation by George. And unfortunately, Bryan Cranston got sick after this episode, thanks to Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And, of course, Jerry ends up, right back where he started, except with someone he would much rather not go with. But anyways, so the main story behind the label maker is that it's the Super Bowl. And Jerry has tickets to go to the Super Bowl, but he can't make it because he has a wedding to go to on the same day. Which, once again, who gets married on Super Bowl Sunday? So he's struggling to get rid of his tickets. Nobody wants them. But then him and George run into Tim Whatley, this is the second appearance of Whatley, as in the first episode, which is the mom and pop store, where Jerry was not sure about whether or not he was invited to Whatley's pre-Thanksgiving Day party, which turned out he was not. Which, of course, George brought that up, saying, was Whatley still mad at him about crashing his party? And Jerry said, no, we had talked about it, we got it all straightened out. He's all cool with it now. So, Jerry offers him the tickets, and Whatley takes him. And, of course, Whatley wants to, repay Jerry for it. So he says, well, go to Mendy's or something like that. Obviously, and Jerry's like, no. He's had enough of Mendy's and, go and people, promising dinners and whatnot because of Kenny Bania, which I'm pretty sure Jerry would much rather go out to dinner with Tim Whatley rather than Kenny Bania. But then Tim gets Jerry a gift for a thank you gift for getting him the Super Bowl tickets. Elaine stops by to visit after Jerry had called Whatley. And then Elaine sees the label maker, which is called the Label Baby Jr., in which she said they're good gifts. She actually just got one for Tim Whatley. And Jerry's like, I just got this one from Tim Whatley. And they're either trying to decide, okay, did he recycle this gift, or did he just like it so much that he got Jerry one as well? Trying to figure out which one was what. And of course, Elaine who of course, in the mom and pop store, mentioned she had a big crush on Tim Whatley, but of course blew off the opportunity to go on a date with him when he asked her out because Elaine couldn't hear what he was saying because her ears were ringing from that deli music that was playing or whatever. When she went to get that pass for Mr. Pitt, being able to hold up Woody Woodpecker in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. But she had given Whatley, the label maker, as a gift because he did some dental work on her, and he didn't charge her anything for it. So of course Elaine now is going to find a way to find out whether if it's the same one that she got him or not. Also, Kramer and Newman, they were playing in a game of Risk. But of course, Risk, I haven't played it for a long time. I only played it like one time, actually, so I don't really know how to play it completely. But they were playing for like a few hours, but then Newman had to go to work. But then, of course, Kramer worried and Newman worried that each other would try to cheat because they were that into the game. Decided to hide the board at Jerry's apartment just so they wouldn't, nobody would cheat, even though throughout the episode a few times it was obvious that Newman was trying to sneak in and cheat, pretty much. But anyways, so in the midst of trying to find that out, of all that, George starts dating this woman named Bonnie. He gets invited to her apartment. It's a really nice apartment, including a velvet couch, because George mentioned several times he loves velvet. He would drape himself in velvet if possible. And it's a perfect apartment too, and it's amazing. There's all these great possessions and whatnot. The only problem was Bonnie had a male roommate whose name was Scott. And the weird part was he looks just like George, which George was freaked out about and felt uncomfortable with. And George even confronted Bonnie about it, saying how it's uncomfortable, and it didn't really, they got to fight about it. He was going to bring her a cactus to make up for it. Bonnie eventually would ask Scott to move out, which he did. But he took like all of his basically everything that was in the apartment was all Scott's. So of course, George, not feeling comfortable now with the fact that Bonnie had basically opened her whole life up to George, didn't make George feel comfortable. Then the fact that Scott took everything, including the velvet couch, that made him basically feel bummed out, not want to be in this anymore. Of course, he did actually give him the label maker that Jerry got, because of course, it ended up being Whatley's label maker in the end. He gave him the labels, but the problem that Whatley had even said later on in the episode, was that the labels would easily still came off very easily, which is why he didn't want it anymore. But he gave Scott the label maker, and Scott's labels came off while the boxes were in transit. So he came back to the apartment at the end to see if anything happened, because the boxes got lost in transit. But of course, George was trying to find some way out of it. So this is actually the end of the episode. I skipped over everything and just got this storyline out of the way with. But George then mentioned the idea to Bonnie when Scott comes in. He had a wild idea, and he mentioned menage a trois, the same thing that George pitched to Jerry in The Switch to try to pull off the roommate switch. So instead of Bonnie being completely turned off by it, Scott walks in, and then Bonnie goes, "Scott, remember we talked about the other night? George is into it." And Scott was like, "Oh, really?" And then the episode ends with just like, it's obviously showing like a point of view shot of Scott like walking very close to George, and then the last shot was George like a close up of his face, like freaking out, because obviously George set him up for himself be stuck in for two people who were discussing a menage a trois already. So that sucked for George, but there was that. As far as the storyline with Kramer and Newman, again, Newman even like snuck into Jerry's apartment while he wasn't home one time and tried to cheat at Risk. And of course, they chased Newman. He ran up the fire escape and whatnot. Eventually, they did continue to play the game of Risk until while Jerry was outside talking to Whatley, which we'll get to that storyline. We'll get back to that story in a second. They were towing Kramer's car, in which Jerry called to Kramer, telling him his car was getting towed. So as, of course, he's chasing the car down the street, Kramer takes the board and runs down the street so that way Newman doesn't cheat, so Newman chases after Kramer. They continue their game on the subway until their game got ruined because they were talking smack on the Ukraine, and there was a guy who was on the subways from Ukraine that got mad and like smashed their board, so didn't get to finish the game, but game over. Now, of course, back to Whatley. So Jerry, of course, gave the tickets to Whatley. And at first, Whatley was going to be taking Newman with him, because I guess Newman was his postal, the person whoever delivered him his mail. Of course, as they would say, first off, who takes their postman to the Super Bowl? And also, who takes Newman to the Super Bowl then? So then, of course, eventually, Jerry finds out that the wedding he was supposed to go to was off because the couple got into an argument about it being on the same day as the Super Bowl. So the wedding was off. So now Jerry could use the tickets. So George told him, well, if he can re-gift, why can't you de-gift? So Jerry calls Whatley, says he can use the tickets until, he was told that to Whatley said he'd already made plans, which that's when Jerry found out that Whatley was going with Newman. Elaine, though, meanwhile, had made a date with Whatley as he wanted to, well, just to, meet up with him. And she tried to invite herself upstairs to his apartment to see if he had the label maker still there or not. Which, they went upstairs, but when they got in, he got a call from a patient for an emergency, impacted mole or something like that. He had to go take care, so she had no time to search. So she was hanging out with him again, but because Elaine invited herself upstairs, Whatley thought, oh, I can get a little more out of this than I thought. So he ditches Newman and then offers Elaine the second ticket for the Super Bowl. But then, of course, they were in a taxi riding together, and they were going to stay at a hotel together. But Elaine, I guess wasn't as attracted to Whatley anymore. I don't know. But obviously Elaine made it clear to Whatley that she didn't mean anything by inviting herself upstairs. So her and Whatley got in a fight, and then since Whatley knew Jerry could use the tickets now, he gave one of his tickets to Jerry, so then we're going to go to the Super Bowl together. That was the scene where Kramer's car got towed, and he chased it down the street. So it was supposed to be Jerry and Whatley going to the Super Bowl until Elaine confronted Whatley again, and outside of his building, she flat just came there and asked for the label maker back, to where Whatley admits he doesn't have it. And he claims that's where he told Elaine how, the labels would always fall off, and he said it was the worst gift that he had ever gotten. And then Elaine just burst into tears, started crying, and said how she bought him the gift because he was nice for not charging her for the dental work that she did. And she also complimented how so sensitive and so careful and caring the way he worked on the filling. And then they were just oh my gosh, and then they embraced and started making out. Now, the thing that sucks, though, about that, though, behind the scenes, though, was at the time, Julia Louis-Dreyfus was actually sick with 102-degree fever or something like that. She was very sick. There's been a couple episodes where Julia was sick behind the scenes, but she still acted. Of course, another one I think of is the Subway episode. She was sick, and she had just gotten pregnant recently also as well. But before that scene, I guess she apparently had apologized to Bryan Cranston, saying I'm sorry, I got a really bad cold. And of course, 2 days after they shot that scene, Bryan Cranston came down with the same thing. But of course, he just jagged all the time that he got it from Julia. She was all over me, as he said. But of course, because they hit it off, instead of Tim trying to get Jerry's ticket back, Whatley gave his ticket to Newman. So Jerry ended up going to the Super Bowl with Newman. And of course, while there, Newman started bragging about how he got these freebies because there was these boxes that showed up with no labels. So Newman got Scott's stuff that was in transit while he was moving because the labels fell off. Sucks to be you, Jerry, but that's the label maker. Pretty funny episode with the whole idea of, regifting and the mystery of Whatley was a regifter or not, and how Newman got involved, and, the scene again with Kramer running down the street holding the wristboard and Newman chasing after him was quite priceless, of course, as well. And Newman actually could run pretty good for a heavy-set guy at the time. I actually today, on a Seinfeld Fanatics page I saw a then and now photo. Wayne Knight apparently I think had lost 100 pounds or something like that, I think, over the years. So definitely good for him for sure. But yeah, guys, that's the Label Maker episode, the Label Baby Jr. Have you guys ever been victims of regifting before? Let me know what your thoughts down in the comment section below. We have, I think, one more episode left before we get to the 100th episode clip show. So we're just about at the 100 episode mark. We're definitely over halfway done with the series, but we're almost at the 100 clip mark, 100 episode mark. Cool. So guys, once again, be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content on my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well at DemandAirboy93. Till then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch you all later. Have a great rest of your night, and peace out, everybody.